year. All right, thank you. It is recording. All right. There's a website, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what it is, but Betty or Debbie, tell what the website is.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Noel Reck is the treasurer, so if you can mail it to him or what it is, $20. Also, we have merchandise, T-shirts, hats, $20 each. Or if you want a hat and a T-shirt, it's $35 for the two of them. Anything else regarding finances or anything? Or all right. Well, I guess we'll go on right now to our speakers then. You all just heard that we got a text from Tom O'Halloran's office, as well as Joanna Mendoza's, his assistant's office, that neither of them can make it. So I guess that goes to our next one in line is Kristen Engel, considering it's another Kristen runabout. I get this right? It's Arizona, the new congressional district is Arizona 6, right? Okay. And one thing I would like to do in your speech is
that's right.
Let us know exactly where you are, because I've read those maps a couple of times. I can't quite pinpoint where I am. I think I will remain in that district, but I'm also close to the other one. So if you could let us know exactly. Kristen is glad to find out you're a school teacher, right?
I am.
You still are. Okay, good. As was I. Some of you have met Kristen, a lot of you haven't, but this is your chance to meet her. I'm sure to talk about how you can help her get on the ballot and to help finance your campaign. So, Kristen Engel, you're on.
Okay. Hey, well, thank you so much. And I'm very sorry to hear about Ralph and his wife's family situation. I was looking forward to seeing them on Zoom here with all of the rest of you. So let me, some of you know me, some of you don't. Let me introduce myself and tell you a bit about my background, how I got into running for public office, and what I would like to accomplish, and something about this race now that we have the final district maps. And I'll try to do my best to figure out where you might be. I have to say I'm not an expert on exactly, what streets those lines go down. So I might have to get back to you on that. So Kristen Engel, I came to Arizona. I'm actually was not born here, but I chose Arizona. I came here in 2005 with my husband and my infant daughter to take jobs here at the University of Arizona. And at the time, we really felt like we had won the lottery, to come to such a gorgeous state and work at a prestigious university. It wasn't long after that, though, that I began to realize that not all was well here in, paradise. And that's when we put our daughter into public school here in Tucson. And I started to serve on my the site council of my daughter's public school. And I remember vividly being at one of these meetings and how we were scraping together money to pay for a school bus for the kids to go on a field trip. And I remember just saying, this is just not right. This should not be happening in Tucson. It shouldn't be happening in Arizona. It shouldn't be happening anywhere. And, my family knows that when I get upset about something that isn't right, I get to work to try to fix it. And I've quickly realized that the real source of our problem was the funding that we were getting from the state for our public schools. And I put my hat in the ring and ran for the Arizona state legislature. So I served for 5 years in the legislature, 2 terms in the Arizona House and 1 in the Senate. And one of the things I also wanted to do when I ran for office was to use my background in the environment and in water to work on these critical issues in Arizona. And it's a tough place in that Arizona legislature, but I was a strong advocate for public education and K through 12, but also our JTED programs, community colleges, and higher education. I think that we got some things done. Clearly, we still have, as you're reading the headlines today, there's still battles going on, but we worked across the aisle. One of the things that I'm proud of is getting more money for special education in the public schools and working on water issues, especially, that drought contingency plan. We know that it's not nearly enough for what Arizona needs in the water area, but that was something that we worked on. Another area that I was very active on working on a bipartisan basis, in which we have gotten some real improvements, was criminal justice reform while I was there, as I served on the Natural Resources Committee, but also on the Judiciary Committee. So now I'm running for Congress. So, why am I doing that? Well, I am one of those, roll up your sleeve type workers. And I am just sick of watching us, kick the can down the road on so many issues that would make people's lives better and would really protect our future here sustainably in Arizona. And we're just kicking those issues down. We're just kicking the can down the road. And instead, the Republicans have been able to, occupy the space, with their lies about the 2020 election and their effort to weaken our voting rights. So what I would like to do is to, take, occupy that space that where we're fighting over the big lie and, roll up our sleeves and work on important issues for families here in Arizona. And one of the top ones is, making sure that families have the supports that they need, especially women, to be able to go back to work and to provide for their families. I've been a working mom all of my career, and I know how important it is to have a safe place for your child. And, we need to have things like, childcare. And that child care tax subsidy should be permanent, I believe. There's other things that we need to do to make sure that families can go back to work, like paid parental leave. I'm a real supporter of that. And I'm also a supporter of workforce development programs. As an educator, I know the importance of education to building a career. And here in Arizona, what we see is, the state spends a lot of money attracting new businesses here to our state, but we don't have the trained workers to take those jobs. And, they also need those social supports like childcare and elderly in-home care to be able to take those jobs. I also think that, as we know, there is no future here in Arizona without reliable supplies of water. And I would like to continue to use my background in the environment and in water to work on making sure that we have secure water future going into the future, and that we're not hiding our head in the sand about how so much of our drought problem is being pushed and caused by climate change. So, we can do a much better job with our water by conserving our water, reusing our water, making sure that the technology is available to use our water more efficiently. And we can use the climate, we can address the climate crisis by investing in renewable energy and being smarter about our energy use, as well as our natural environment. Other issues that I think are of primary importance, right now, so many families are facing the higher costs of living as a result of inflation that we're seeing. And I do think that workforce development type programs will help people get back to work. As we pull out of the COVID crisis, I think that that will help with costs. But there are also other things that we can do. And one of the top ones on my list is to give the power to Medicare to negotiate down prescription drug prices. We know the cost of prescription drugs is a very high one for so many families. We know that the United States is an outlier in terms of how much people cost for prescription drugs. We also know that prescription drugs are lower where that power to negotiate their price has been given, as it has for our veterans by the Veterans Administration. So this is something that we can do to bring down the cost of prescription drugs and help families. I am also very much of a pro-choice candidate. I do believe that the decision whether or not to have a child is a deeply personal one that should be left to the mother as well as her family and her doctor. And I'm very concerned about what may happen with the Supreme Court, potentially repealing Roe versus Wade. And I would like to be an advocate in Congress for guaranteeing that right to reproductive healthcare choices for women and people in Congress. So as you probably know, this congressional district is now Congressional District 6. As a result of redistricting, it has now been made a very competitive seat. In fact, we look at it and we think our assessment is that this is the most competitive seat in the state and one of the most competitive in the nation. Biden won it by just 400 votes. So it's going to be a struggle to keep this seat in Democratic hands, but I'm prepared to do so. I have a campaign team that I have put together. We have been successful in raising money for our race and getting our message out, getting the endorsements from local and state officials. Just today, very proud to announce that we received the endorsement of Mayor Regina Romero here in Tucson, who's been a real leader on these issues of climate change and working on issues such as, public transit and making cities livable in a way that also protects the environment. So Southern Arizona has had a long tradition of electing strong Democratic women, from Gabby Giffords to Ann Kirkpatrick. And I would be very honored to use my experience as a working mom. I've got a daughter now in public school and high school. She's 17 years old. Get her opinions about the world all the time. So use my experience as a working mom, as a teacher and as an environmental attorney to work for all of Southern Arizona. I have run for office 3 times, and I've never lost a race before, and I don't intend to start now. So thank you very much for listening, and I would love to hear what your questions are.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, I have one. And now, since you live in the Tucson area, of course, does your district go along the border? Is the border?
It does, although one interesting aspect of the redistricting process is it did take out some of the border areas that this district traditionally had. Mm-hmm. So Bisbee and Douglas used to be part of this district. They have now been taken out, and now that is part of CD7, what we call the Grijalva district.
Okay.
So yes, it does go down all the way down to the border. It doesn't have quite as much of the mileage of the border as it used to.
Okay, but I'm sure you're getting questions already, and you certainly will from the evil people, the other side, about what your ideas are on the border. The criticism is, of course, the Biden administration is not doing enough. And just whether yesterday, Secretary Mayorkas was down there in Yuma and really got criticized. So my question is, what is your opinion how we can solve that problem, the immigration problem?
Well, I think first and foremost, Washington has failed us on this. We have not had a good or consistent border policy, under Trump, or we're seeing even with the Biden administration, there are issues. I do believe we have to secure the border. I do believe that is an important objective, but it is really very, very backward, I think, to think that we're going to do this with walls and to invest in walls. Not only does this alienate our most important trading partner, Mexico, it's also destroyed our beautiful border environment, which is very important in terms of biodiversity, as well as water issues. So the whole walls issue is really gotten us totally off into the wrong direction. I think the way to secure the border is actually with technology, as well as more manpower and labor force. But we cannot, shut our eyes to the humanitarian crisis that's going on at our border. And it's real. And we have a responsibility to make sure that people can apply for asylum. And that also requires an investment by the United States. And that has not been made a high enough priority. So we also, have issues with immigration that Congress has not addressed. The 11 million people that continue to live in our country without legal documentation. And we need a pathway to citizenship for those people. And this is an area that needs to be elevated. We have to take into account both the security as well as the humanitarian issues. We need to create a pathway to citizenship. And we also need to prioritize those dreamers who have been waiting their whole life for the security of having citizenship. And we certainly should be able to pass that and make them citizens. They've spent their whole lives in this country. They're here working, ready to contribute to our society. So there is a lot that we need to do. But, press conferences on the border is not going to solve our many border issues.
All right, thank you. Anybody other questions?
Keith, actually, Larry has a question.
Yes. Question for you, since you are an environmentalist. Are you familiar with RAZA?
RAZA.
Yes, it's a rural Arizona. It's an active group, and a bunch of them are out of Tucson.
I have to say, I am not sure I'm familiar with them.
Okay, I just attended a meeting that they had, and again, they're an environmental group that is working on water. Right now, they're going against the expansion of the Coolidge gas power deal. But they're active throughout Arizona on environmental issues.
Excellent, excellent. I would like to know more about them.
Okay. I'll see if I can.
Does our RAZA stand for something? Is that an acronym?
Yes, Rural Arizona Action Committee or Action Group.
Okay.
If you go to RAZA.com, you should be able to get the website.
Okay. That sounds excellent. We need more active folks in our rural areas.
Yes.
I think we've a lot of the environmental organizations have been dominated by people in cities and urban dwellers. and there's different issues in our rural areas. And what better to have people who live in rural areas to help us get through those and address them. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supporting you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Cynthia Jones, did you have a question?
Yeah, probably actually a couple, but I wanted to start with my history question since she's an educator, Kristen's an educator, because I guess I find that history is like a subject I really love. And what I find that what we're teaching our children isn't accurate history. And I was just wondering, and now, you know, I'm seeing what's going on in Tennessee, how they're banning a book and all those kinds of things. I guess I was just wondering about that. And then I heard, and the other thing I was wondering about was the whole voting rights thing, especially with when you listen to McConnell. I mean, when somebody says that Black voters are voting at the same, Black American voters are voting at the same rate as Americans. I mean, I just couldn't believe I heard that with my own 2 ears. It was like he was separating Black Americans from whatever he thinks an American is. And I was wondering exactly where you were on that.
Okay, well, education. I love that topic, and I'm so glad you asked that. And I have just really been very frustrated by, you know, the Republicans trying to use race to divide our parents from kids, parents from parents. This whole focus on critical race theory, which is really a, academic discipline that you might find in some high-level seminar and is not being taught in our, K through 12 schools, and using this as a way of, dividing our communities and really also, becoming an excuse for legislation that I think is just going to intimidate teachers and administrators from teaching important subjects. And we in America don't shy away from, our history. And, we have things to be proud of. And we also have some darker chapters in our history that we need to discuss. And that's something that we can learn from. So education is critical, and let's I do not support revisionist history attempts.
Well, Kristen, I don't support that either, but I do think that we don't look at our history correctly. I do think we shy away from what our real history is, worldwide and in the United States. I mean, when you were going to school, did you learn about, what we did to the Native Americans? I didn't. And I'd like to see all that corrected. And so to me, that's extremely important, because if you don't know what your history is, how can you make the correction? How can you be a better country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And on the issue of voting rights, you're seeing it right now, some of the proposals that are going on in the Arizona legislature to weaken voting rights. And many of the proposals have the direct impact of making it more difficult for low-income people or minorities to vote. And I think that is very clear that will be the impact of so many of these proposals. Think about that proposal that did pass, the bill that passed last year with respect to the permanent early voting list, to now make it no longer permanent. who are the people who are very likely to be kicked off of that list because they're not consistent voters? They're the people who are struggling with employment or consistent housing and other issues, and that is disproportionately going to impact low-income and minority voters. So voting rights is a very, very important issue. I would have made a different decision on the federal level. I do support the federal legislation to guarantee our voting rights. And this is going to continue to be an important issue for Congress to act on, because what we're seeing coming out of our states is Republican-controlled legislatures weakening our voting rights.
You sure you don't want to run for Senate?
Not this cycle.
Yeah, disappointed, very disappointed in that.
That's right. We've got one already there.
I'm a very different Kirsten. Let's just leave it at that.
Thank God.
I have a question.
Sure.
I want to know what your feelings are and what you want to see achieved as far as gun violence prevention.
Well, thank you for asking. I do think that that is also a very important issue. And, you know, I am a mom of a teenager, and when she was in middle school, you know, I received one of those calls, and, you know, it actually chokes me up just thinking about, you know, her, you know, whispering on the phone, "We're all under our desk, Mom. There is somebody with a gun out in the parking lot, and I am, you know, scared to death." And, you know, that is a call that you never want to receive. And thank goodness for me, it was just a call. And that person did not do any harm. But I've been a very passionate supporter of common sense gun reforms to reduce gun violence. Absolutely, we should have universal background checks. And that is something that's actually supported by a majority of people in the United States, and also gun owners and Republicans. A majority of them support that. So that seems to be the most clear thing that I think should be the first step. But I also think that there's a lot of other things that we should be doing, including I'm really seeing, you know, just these horrible situations of, you know, accidents in the home where people are not securing their guns. A child gets a hold of a gun. It's just, you know, it's just tears your heart out. So, you know, common sense gun reforms, closing those loopholes, closing the gun show loophole, you know, making sure that we don't have this, you know, the boyfriend who can not have that order against them because they are not actually married to the person for whom they have been convicted of domestic violence. So those reforms, I think, would really make a big difference.
And holding gun owners accountable when they are negligent in storing their guns. I mean, there are 3 incidents just here in Casa Grande that could have been prevented, that were preventable. A 5-year-old gets a loaded gun and shoots his mother in the chest, kills her. And the 5-year-old has like 3 younger siblings. The gun owner, which I think was the mother's boyfriend, I'm not sure, but, you know, unless it was the mother's gun and she was irresponsible, well, she's dead, that's it. But, and I don't mean to say, you know, that sounds callous, but.
No, but you're right. I think this is something that we've just, you know, said, be a responsible gun owner, but there haven't been any repercussions. So I don't think that we've had the message out that we expect it and people have to be accountable.
I would like to see that, because I think until we start making people accountable, they're not going to do the things that are necessary to protect children. And even teenagers, because teenagers are prone to quick thinking. They don't think things through. They're impulsive. And sometimes, you know, that's when they think about suicide. I had a teenager in my neighborhood. I watched this kid walk back and forth to school almost every day. And you could ask me, what do I know about the kids that walk by my house today? Couldn't tell you. But this kid was so unique. This long blonde straight hair. He had these white frame sunglasses. He usually had ear pods in, usually wore a hoodie and or backpack. He looked like he belonged in Southern California. Every time I looked at this kid, I thought, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. As in just his look. And I did a Be Smart training at the Paul Mason on a Saturday. And Sunday I went to the grocery store and I noticed a bunch of yellow tape on Treckle, which was right by the high school. So I called my daughter and I said, what's going on? And she said, oh, Mom, she said, this boy went out into the desert and he shot himself. So it took me about a week or so to get the courage to look for the obituary. And when I saw the picture of this kid, you know, he had the sunglasses on top of his head. And I thought, oh my God, you know, he was 17, but kids that age, I don't know why he was depressed or whatever, but if the gun would have been locked up, he might be living today.
And a waiting period as well. Dr. Randy Fries and I, we introduced last year mirror bills in the House, and I did it in the state Senate to impose a waiting period. And that was in response to a very similar situation to what you're talking about with a teen who impulsively went out, bought a gun, and, you know, took it right home and shot himself. And that was one of the reforms that Florida passed after their horrific
yeah, I would just
experience.
like to see more stuff. And even NRA members, a very high percentage of them, like 78%, are for background checks. It's the NRA executive board, the Wayne LaPierre and the thugs of them that are keeping these bills, keeping sensible gun legislation from moving forward. It's really very frustrating.
Right. I mean, these are things that actually do have bipartisan buy-in.
Yes, yes.
So it is being able to tap into that and get people to, you know, get behind it. So that's our challenge, but it is certainly a very important issue to me and something that I would like to try.
And yet our
to be able to do this.
Our state is pushing guns on campus.
Yes.
Doesn't make sense.
1123.
Right, and for the very reasons that you were talking about, you know, that is really, you know, guns and students, you know, really do not mix.
No.
Yeah, circle us back to the election for a minute, please.
Mistake.
Hey, I think Dal, did you have a question? And then we may need to have that be the last one.
So, Kirsten, what I'm curious about is, are you facing any other Democratic representatives in the primary? And if so, how would you differentiate yourself from them?
Okay, yes, there is a Democratic primary. I see really one of my most significant opponent was Randy Fries when he was in the race. But he actually—
Is he a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. He dropped out of the race last September. So now still in the race is another House member, Daniel Hernandez. He represents District 2 in the Arizona House. which is really overlaps with the Grijalva district. So some important distinctions, I think, between the two of us. The district he's been representing is not this district, it's the Grijalva district. The district I have been representing for the past 5 years has been in this Kirkpatrick district. The other issue is experience. And, you know, I'm a mom. I've got, you know, the scars of, you know, raising a kid, and I've got parents who are getting a bit older. And I really had, I think, you know, a pretty significant professional career. I started my career at US EPA in Washington, D.C. And for a period of time, I also headed up a section, the Environmental Protection Division of the Massachusetts Attorney General's office while I was living there before coming here to Arizona and heading up the environmental law program and serving as academic dean for 3 years. So I do feel like I have more professional experience and also real expertise to contribute on these important issues of water and renewable energy and, you know, sustainable development going forward in our region.
One last comment I would just make before we lose Kirsten. I was looking online while we were here at the equal online petitions to be able to take a look at signing your candidate's petition. And they're still showing, when I sign in, they're still showing District 1 and Tom O'Halloran. So I don't know how we're going to get my support for Tom O'Halloran ability to be able to transfer over to Kirsten. Obviously, that's nothing we can deal with here, but just sort of an FYI for making people aware of the fact that we got to find a way to get Kirsten's petitions available for signature.
Dal, can I just chime in there? Just to clarify, the Secretary of State's online signature system, Equal, does not have the capacity to switch over to the new maps. So whatever district you were registered in 2020, those are the candidates that you will be able to sign for on Equal online. Both voters in the old district and voters in the new district can sign our petition. We do have paper petitions for you to sign. I will be getting some of those up to Ralph as soon as he gets back into town, and we will make sure that those are available for everyone to sign.
Thanks, Chesney.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you. So you just heard from Chesney Richter. She's my campaign manager, and I couldn't be more honored to have her working with me. She's phenomenal, and I can make Chesney, did you put your contact information in the chat as well as the information for
I will do that.
Yeah, for our website, etc. I'll put in a plug. We are fundraising pretty heavily right now. This is going to be a very large national race. One thing I didn't say anything about is our Republican opponents. So you may have seen the news that Kelly Townsend, a far right-wing state senator, has thrown her hat into the ring on the Republican side. And the very fact that she thinks that she could win this district is very concerning. She's somebody that has spearheaded many of these bills to weaken voting rights and supported the fake slate of electors for Trump. Also somebody who is not a public health advocate. In fact, you know, she's somebody who questions vaccines, starting with the measles vaccine, including COVID. So this is not the person that we want to emerge. The other candidate on the Republican side is an aide to Governor Ducey, Juan Ciscomani. He's a bit more of a moderate Republican, but I think he's probably going to be pushed further to the right as a result of having Kelly Townsend in this race.
Okay. All right. Kristen, thank you for being with us tonight. And we appreciate that we got to have you for a little extra time.
Well, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Great questions. And please feel free to reach out if you have more questions for us.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure who's next up on the agenda. Would it be-
Stephanie, I think it's Stephanie Siegler has something to say about the redistricting process. Stephanie?
Hi. Not so much as a presentation, it's just to kind of facilitate a discussion and make sure that everybody is up to speed on, how everything kind of progressed. So, Betsy, if you could pull up, I am not talented enough to do a screen share. So if you wouldn't mind, I just put up some kind of visual reminders to kind of talk about the process. Towards the end, I think we were all up to date on what was going on. So the Arizona Democratic Party and the Arizona Democratic legislative leaders basically, pointed out that this whole thing was rigged. There's actually they have a complete layout, PDF for about the Republican interference and leanings the entire process. And even at the last meeting, it was very contentious. I only caught the highlights because, working during the day, it was hard to catch them live. But I know Ray's did a great job getting out the word for the last ditch effort commenting. So I hope, I felt it kind of felt in a way like, okay, it's kind of done, but let's at least try. But there was some serious fighting, like accusing Ms. Lerner of getting influence, and meanwhile they have their own consultants that they weren't disclosing their contributions. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So looking at the kind of the U.S. Overall, the redistricting process, I just found some interesting numbers on Politico and about the districts. So we're 129 strong with Biden. This is just so far, not everyone's completed, but 107 strong Trump, and then the competitive districts. So I think as Democrats across the country are looking at strategy, it's going to be really aimed towards getting as much out to the competitive districts and really kind of putting our efforts there. Next slide. So there is actually there's one before that, number 3. Thank you. This is basically what Politico was looking at for specific Arizona, and the difference between the old and the new. And I'm a person who likes visuals because I find that helpful. So when I see the comparison of 4 districts strong Biden and then how it dropped, so it looks like we didn't do. It's a small boost compared to other states that really are having issues. So it could be worse. It's not great, but it could be worse. So I'm taking some comfort in that. And then the Princeton, and number 4, the Princeton gerrymandering project, which is a kind of a separate thing. I loved the grades that we got on these. So we didn't get Fs. And I think that had a lot to do with just the involvement. I mean, there was Rays, there was, of course, the Democratic Party, the Leave Women Voters. There was all sorts of groups that were getting people out there for public input. So I think that I'd like to think of it that we kept it at a B and C and not an F. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I think that we at least helped make it not be worse, especially considering how zealous the Republicans are in this state. So looking first at number 5, this is the final map of the congressional districts, and we are split into 2, but this is kind of just the overall look of how it ended up here. And this is available on the IRC website, of course, your board. And one of the things I thought was interesting on number 6 was just kind of looking at they're kind of small, but I highlighted the 2 districts that we are split into and just the numbers. So of course, there's the total population, but what we're really looking at is the current voting age percentage and how many, Hispanic, Latino, white, Black, Asian, Native American, and how that all splits up. So it, and what areas can we target? For example, we really want to kind of get the minority vote out there. We really want to get those numbers up and support that. And I know from my own experience working, in an Indian Native American community, that there's a lot of barriers to voting in outside elections. So, what can we do? One of those barriers is, of course, transportation, knowledge, and a lot of the things that we encounter, anywhere else, but they really seem to be amplified for example, in Gila River Indian community. They really feel disenfranchised, or it doesn't matter. But as we know from Congressman O'Halloran's support of the tribes and getting them resources, and I really love that he was always very active, with the tribal leaders, because they're our neighbors. They're an important part of this country, and so those votes do matter. And making sure that they can participate, get to the polls, and have those opportunities is a very important part of what we can do for voter outreach. So number 7 was the city of Casa Grande. Now, as we know, we're now split into 2 congressional districts, which is going to be interesting on how we are going to approach that, and something I think we're going to have to be discussing, and how we're going to be working on that. So, and it looks like it's, we've got a few more in District 6 than we do in 2. And I don't know if you guys saw it earlier, but Chesney did put the link in there. You can plug in your address to find out where you are if you're not sure, like if you're on the, right on the line there. So that's going to kind of change up, how we're approaching these campaigns. So for example, Kirsten Engel is in CD6. So that, so we want to make sure, like at our meetings, we have both represented, and yeah, that's going to be fun. Not. Then number 8, this is the, whoops, I think it jumped down on slide 8.
It did.
Yeah, sorry. So these are the final legislative districts. And even from here, you can see that big swath of periwinkle, I guess we are, as legislative district 16. And so that's where we are. Number 9 is just kind of a bigger, focus on the actual district. So you can kind of get an idea of where that is. And number 10 are the numbers that we are talking about for 16. I did not get all 30 on there, but the total population numbers for all the districts are pretty similar. But again, that's really important information that we're going to need as we approach our, paint drives, voter registration drives, and who we need to target to get the vote out for 16. So, and then the last slide was, so I was formerly District 8. So I'm not as familiar with District 11. So, but the incumbents in District 16 is going to be TJ Shope who I think we're all pretty familiar with. And then also Teresa Martinez. Now, I was not really familiar with her. She was appointed by the Pinal County Board of Supervisors. And I because she was formerly in 11. So David Cook and Neil Carter are out. They're in different districts. But she's a little scary. So she's involved with working for Paul Gosar, which right there, that's red flag number one, because there's a saying that we use in psych that's called BSC, and it's bat shit crazy. And that's not a clinical term, and it's not to insult anybody with an actual mental illness, but I reserve it for Gosar. But so she's working for him. She attended a Republican conference on, the quote stolen election. So she was one of the people that was involved in that. She also worked for Rick Renzi. I mean, she's just got a list of winners here. So Michelle Reagan, who I think once upon a time used to be kind of moderate, but then went to the dark side. So and I did find she just did an interview with the Arizona Sun-Times, which apparently some conservative digital paper, that she did confirm that she is going to be running. So in 2022. So we definitely need to get a strong candidate against her because she's scary. And so that brought me to the whole, it was brought up earlier with the online signatures. So for example, it looks like Ms. Martinez will be able to collect signatures online under her old district, but a new candidate entering, I'm not sure where that's going to be placed because they can't have both maps going at the same time. And it's going to be, and Chesney, I don't know if you know any more about this, if you're up to date, but it looked like the site is going to be down to redo it sometime in March for like a week. And I don't know if anybody has more information on it, but it looks like we are going to need to, at least for some portion of time, be pounding the pavement with paper.
I have just a little information, which is the main reason is every county has to reassign every single registered voter to the correct district now.
Mm-hmm.
And so until the counties complete that process, which is gargantuan, they can't change the eQual online service. So that the delay isn't the Secretary of State, it's how long it takes the counties to do that. And I did understand that they don't expect that to actually be functional very much before the deadline for petitions, which is in April. So we really have to scramble to get paper petitions.
Excuse me, sorry. To add to Betty's point, each county recorder also has to submit updated voting precincts. By Arizona law, congressional districts, state legislative districts, and supervisor districts cannot split between split precincts. So a precinct has to be a whole within their respective districts. So now, once the Secretary of State finally transmits the finalized maps for the state ledge and the congressional maps to the counties, that's when the county recorders can begin that process. Patty Hansen gave me a good little rundown on it because on the campaign side, we can't have access to updated maps until all those precincts are finalized and transmitted to the state party. So it's going to be a process. So paper is the way to go.
Yeah, and so how long do you think the site's going to be down for all that to happen? Oops, you're muted, James.
I done got myself. The Arizona Mirror, I think, ran an article saying that there's a good chance that the new districts won't be live in time for them to be used this cycle. But that's also, pending any potential extensions due to this this technical difficulty. The Secretary of State and the counties could turn things around way quicker than anybody expects. But it's better to be safe than sorry and just proceed with paper if they can't collect signatures online in an old district.
Okay, that's what I gathered from it. So thanks for confirming that. I was like, oh boy, that's going to be old school. So I dropped the link for the legislative district look up in the chat. So if you're not sure where you are located, you can look it up there, or just to share with, pass that information on to friends and family. That's because I know we're focused on our, specific, local issues. We're the Casa Grande Democrats, of course, but I'm also encouraging people to share this information with all your Democratic friends all over the state. Make sure that they know what's going on, what new district they'll be in, who's going to be running, because it could be very different. It could be the same depending on where they're located. And the other thing I was going to ask, if anybody had any ideas or rumors or heard any inklings of who is going to be running in Legislative District 16.
Would you guys like for me to speak up here a little?
Yeah.
All right, my name is Lisa. I am the chair of Pinal County, and let me turn my video on. And I do apologize because I wasn't going to speak. Right now, we do not have a candidate for LD 16. Several people have been reached out to, but what I can tell you is the ADLCC, the new LD 16 will be in one of the top 5 targets. What is likely going to happen is we will have multiple, up to 4 ADLCC organizers and 1 regional representative searching and looking for those that will want to run in that legislative district. That should be starting here pretty soon, and I do plan on following up with all of you that so that you guys know what's going on. I've already sent Les Luna contact information for the clubs and everything that are in that new district. So hopefully we'll be getting that to go here pretty soon.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. We heard just a tiny bit from James, but James also has some things to discuss with us tonight. James, are you there? There you are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The tech issues of 2020 just decided to hit me all today. I went strong 2 years, almost none of them. I've been battling with Cox for about 10 hours today. Honestly, I'm surprised that I haven't dropped off more. So if I get disconnected while I give a little intro, I'm sorry. So I mean, you guys all know that the redistricting's happened. Some of you are apprised to the fact that the congressman did sit down with some folks from Democratic clubs, including the chair of Pinal County earlier this month. The discussion went pretty well, and Pinal County is still going to be very important, and the areas in northern Casa Grande that are in the new congressional district will also play a immense importance in getting the congressman reelected in a tougher district. I could sit here and speak to optimism and point out some key facts to keep people's spirits high on making sure that another crazy Arizona state legislature doesn't make their way to Congress like Kelly Townsend's trying to do. But I'll save you guys that time, because most importantly, I think it should be noted that the D-Trip not only had the investment in myself and my tribal counterpart for the district, Lauren Marshall, but we've also had somebody on the ground doing a lot of preemptive capacity building and movement work, and some early coordination work with the down ballot candidates. Second congressional district. So we have a wonderful guy. I'm proud to call him a good friend. We honestly went to college together, so I'm happy to be working with him, doing the good work here. So without any further ado, your Arizona 6th Congressional District DCCC Organizing Director, John Bauer, if you would like to come off mute and on camera and introduce yourself to the wonderful folks of the Casa Grande greater area, as I like to put it.
Well, thank you, James. Yeah, NAU is doing a great job at turning out Democratic organizers across the state. Go Lumberjacks, first and foremost, but thank you for having me tonight. Like James said, I come from the D-Trip. I've been working on this district for the past couple of months, working to build capacity, recruit volunteers, and help identify issues so that we can build a strong, coordinated effort between local candidates and whoever this congressional candidate may be. As Kirsten said, it's a contested race. There's going to be a lot of good people running, and we need to do our part to make sure that they have the support they need after the primary and once that mad dash to the end begins. A little bit about me. I've lived in Arizona since I was 8 years old. I grew up in Peoria, Arizona, very northwest part, like closer to Lake Pleasant. Kind of similar to some of the rural areas that I'll be working in now. My childhood home was in a suburb surrounded by desert, hobbies included hanging out at baches and jumping bikes in the desert. And so it's been fun, and it's been fun to watch it grow. And I'm excited to see this area grow once we hold on to that Democratic majority in the House and then eventually flip the Senate for real. I've worked on campaigns all over this state. One of few organizers that gets to say that he's been able to work in his home for the past 5 years. I've worked with campaigns like Save Our Schools. I was the operations and field director for Outlaw Dirty Money for some time. I've worked for legislative candidates. I helped the coordinated elect Biden and Kelly, and then I even got to do a little bit of remote work for John Ossoff. It's been a lot of fun. I've worked with Arizonans all over the state. I've worked on a number of issues, and I can't wait to get started. That being said, I will plug an event here in the chat. We are starting some phone banking. It's every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 8, and we're calling all through Pima County and Cochise County. And then once we get the data, we will start calling into Greenlee and Graham as well. So happy to answer any questions that y'all may have for me. But most importantly, I'm excited to get to work. It's going to take a lot of effort to keep this district in our hands. And yeah, I think it's going to be a top tier race across the country. So nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you as well. We're all in our little muted rooms, but welcome.
That's Zoom. I'm used to it by now. I know everybody was laughing at all my jokes. It's fine.
We were. And picturing you on your bike in the desert.
Yeah, that was fun times. Fun times.
All right. Okay. So we have, I think in the chat, you put the link. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And we're looking forward to working with you. All righty. Keith, did you have anything else you wanted to say to close out our meeting?
Okay. Jeffrey, those of us who are in the Casa Grande area, read the newspapers. That keeps you apprised of those stupid things we're doing in the legislature. And on education, the voting, we've already talked about that. And if there's anything you can do to oppose those, talk to your legislators, email them, write letters to the editors, like we've been doing very good at doing that. So now's the time to do that, because they're going to the committees now. And of course, once they get the committees, then they have to go to the other side and they come together. There's still some time, but I think all of us have talked about that. Kirsten said that, John James said that. There's some terrible things coming out of the legislature. And I'm not sure if all our Republican senators and House representatives are really interested. To me, my point is that they're interested in their own careers and how they can get higher in the Senate House. But hopefully they've got some interest in helping the schools. And another thing is that cap, the aggregate spending, that's very important to schools. That's going to come up in, it's going to be done in March. If we don't get repassed by March, the schools will be in trouble. So just all I can say is month, but keep aware of what's going on. A lot of you belong to organizations, the SOS, ASBA, and things like that. Read their legislative websites, read their information, do what you can to stop that nonsense. Okay, is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, thank you for coming. We'll probably meet like this again in February.
Keith, I have one thing to announce. If anybody, there's a lot of good information in the chat, and I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but you can download the chat on your own computer so you can have all these links available to you. If you go to the chat window and then go over to the right where there's these 3 little dots, click on the 3 dots and it says Save Chat. And you can save the whole chat to your own computer so you'll have a record of all these links. That's all. Thank you.
Debbie, is there a limit on that? Can you save it as long as you want to?
Well, yeah, once you save the chat, it's just on your computer wherever you decide to store it.
Okay, so it's not limited. Okay. Well, it's good. There's all good information, but we've heard everybody where to start now. We can't wait till later.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Something else?
Oh, I will also put that in a kind of newsletter update, all the links and information from the meeting that I'll get out within a couple days.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
So that'll go out to everybody who has a newsletter subscription.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Then we'll adjourn the meeting. I don't think we have to vote on everybody for that. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Robin and Debbie and Betty, for bringing this to us. So see you again.
Okay.
Go
Good
Blue.
night, everybody.
Thank you,
Right.
everybody. As always, you are rock stars.
No.
Okay,
Hey,
good
everyone,
night.
thanks again for having me.